Hello, legends. Welcome in. It's Saturday. Today's story is a little bit long and complicated because there's a lot to get through. And we have had, even though it may not appear this way, an incredible week behind us. But there's a bunch of people selling stuff. And we're going to dig into that too. Check out the usual on-chain and everything else that's going on. So thank you all for coming. Oh, let me pop up the slides. Make sure they work. Yes. Good. Let's jump in and talk about the story. So the crypto market cap last week when I did this was about 2.6 trillion. Now it's 3.05 trillion. $450 billion was added in wealth. So you all out there are richer this week. Volume monstrous. $185 billion on Bitcoin alone. Bitcoin, as I speak, $91,150. And we're all taking in our stride. And fear and greed is at 86. That's a little high. It's a little scary. And we'll get into the rest of the story. And of course, I'm just a guy on the internet, not financial advice. And thank you to everybody as well on Patreon. We have Muffin Man. I actually look forward to seeing the Patreon payment go out each month. Best spend every month towards my future. Awesome. Thank you, Muffin Man. And it's been a fun ride indeed. Let's get into the Bitcoin black hole first, because that's driving a lot of the actual Bitcoin action. And Blackrock is still stacking hard. They are the red line here. Digital Asset US, thank you so much for coming. And thank you as well to the mods in the chat. Sean Donnelly, TND Tesla, K8, and everybody. The whole gang is here on Saturday. It's awesome. The red line, though, is Blackrock. Do not sleep on Blackrock. They are stacking like there is no tomorrow. Everything else is really, like Fidelity is pretty big, ARK pretty big, Bitwise pretty big, but the stacking that BlackRock has done in this, call it October, November timeframe is phenomenal. Absolutely massive. In terms of what happened this week, yes, we had 2 sell-off days, but 3 big days ahead of that. And in terms of how much that Bitcoin that is, 20,300 Bitcoin were still bought by the ETFs over the last 5 days, despite nearly 7,000 being sold on Thursday and Friday. But that's usual. That's profit taking. We'll get into more stuff too. But what exactly is going on behind the scenes? And these are things that you probably heard about but didn't pay any attention to. Anglo Blackson, thank you so much. And you inspire me, buddy. But the Bitcoin Treasury Act is now in the queue. Is congress.gov. You can see it for yourself. Search S.4912, Bitcoin Act of 2024. That is for the US to be buying circa 10 billion plus of Bitcoin every year. And shout out to Cynthia Lummis. She says it's in the hopper. It's in the queue. But there's other stuff going on too. This, Pennsylvania, it was in the news not once but twice in the last 2 weeks. But this is big. Cute little map here from Bitcoin Pro magazine. I thought it was cool. I wish I could have added Florida too. But this goes back to the whole game theory of exactly what's going on. The study of competitive strategies. Pennsylvania is now the second state in the United States that is going to stack Bitcoin to their balance sheet. Again, some of these states are huge. Florida is like the 16th biggest country in the world. California is the 5th biggest country in the world. The US is a big place. And now apparently the new president that's coming in is promising to do this at the federal level. And so is Cynthia's trying to get the law passed as well to do it. But the point is, what you all need to understand is how quickly the narrative has gone from governments are going to ban Bitcoin to governments are going to stack Bitcoin like there's no tomorrow. And I can't stress enough, Duck Intern, thanks for coming, how important that is. This is the whole nation state adoption thing. It will be one of 2 major themes I see in 2025. The other one being treasuries, but you could call it the same thing. Nation states adopting, corporations adopting, they're all treasuries. But I see massive corporate treasuries happening and I see nation state happening as well. And it is just a very special time to be alive and just witness this craziness happening. And shout out to Rajat as well. This is what I've been talking about for quite some time. And my stance on what I call the perpetual bid, no more serious bear markets, has gone into full gear. This is from Rajat Soni. Certified Financial Analysis, I think, or whatever CFA stands for. I used to have one back in the day. But he's now talking my perpetual bid thesis. So in the history, you can see every 4 years there was a red dot, which was a bear market. But the future, and I love what he's doing here. The future could just all be green. And that is because this thing is scarce. Chaotic Coder, thank you so much for coming too. Another view as well regarding scarcity, again from Rajat. He's so eloquent today. But the US government wants to buy 1 million Bitcoin. All the 60 million millionaires in the world want to have one whole coin. And by the way, now you know why I was talking about whole coinership for the longest time, for 4 years now. Countries around the world want to stack Bitcoin. So do pensions. So do treasuries and corporations. Pension funds want to start allocating to Bitcoin. Every company wants to start buying Bitcoin, but no one wants to sell. The simple fact of the matter is there isn't enough Bitcoin to satisfy the demand that's coming. Michael Saylor bought 27,200 Bitcoin the other day. That denies 27,200 millionaires from being a whole coiner. It's that scarce. It's kind of crazy. And even more bonkers, this is from CoinGlass. This is the quarterly returns for Bitcoin. All right. We are only halfway through Q4 and Bitcoin's already up 44%. Well, 43.9, but we'll call it 44. That is absolutely insane. So again, the gain's already incredible. The question is, can I continue? Let's have a look. First of all, shout out to Safedine Moose. He says, pro tip, if a Bitcoin is worth $200,000, do not sell it and buy dollars, because if Bitcoin is at $200,000, the dollar is very close to the grave. This guy knows money, all right? If this happens, it could mean the fiat dollar is in trouble like every other fiat around the planet too. But check this. A new record. U.S. national debt just hit $36 trillion. What's the name of the guy? Austin Powers or something. $1 million. Anyway, 36 trillion. Massive number. The U.S. government is spending like there is no tomorrow. Okay? This just breached 36 trillion. It's already up another 50 billion since the screenshot was taken. And remember, everybody, the more debt that there is, the more this number goes up, the less the dollar is worth in your pocket. I hope that's clear. That's why this is so important. And this is why we Bitcoin, everybody. Now, a little bit of inflation food for thought as well, because that's part of the great theft. And this is from QE Infinity, sharing a Linalden chart as well. Our ignorant economists, including the Fed, think we are beating inflation by bringing it down to 2.5% to 3%. The magical 2% never happened, by the way. Meanwhile, on Earth, consumers are feeling crushed after a 30 to 40% rise in prices since 2020, i.e. C19 kicked in. Okay, 30 to 40% has been taken. But when you look at the chart, the red line, it's like, oh, everything's fine. Economists say everything's fine. In fact, we got everything under control. No. You got to look at the blue line that just keeps on going up, because this keeps going up. Okay, it's very simple. But if you snooze on this for a year or 5 years or 10 years, you just get wrecked holding fiat. So that's very important. Also, Samson, Mao, all the players were chatting up Bitcoin this week. Mao stated that Bitcoin at $100,000 is still undervalued, and detailing still an anomaly that Bitcoin traded below this number, even with the recent explosive price increase. And he doubles down on his $1 million prediction following the US Department of Treasury thinking about stacking Bitcoin. This could be a huge trigger. Now, fair play to Samson. He did call for $1 million Bitcoin in summer 2024, but I think he was thinking about other nation states, not the US. Anyway, here we are. The game theory is going to kick in, and we're just going to sit back and eat our popcorn and watch it all happening. And 15 years ago, too, shout out to Vivek. You think $1 million is crazy? Well, Hal Finney, 15 years ago, right after Bitcoin went live, he said this very prescient thing. He said, let me try to read this. It's a little small for my little eyes. Imagine Bitcoin becomes a dominant payment system, something like that. Current estimates of total worldwide household wealth, somewhere between 100 trillion and 300 trillion. It's actually higher than that right now, with 20 million coins approximately. That gives each coin a value of about $10 million. And that's basically how it works. May Hal Finney rest in peace. But again, it's going up because fiat's going down. It's that simple. Don't overthink it. And also, Bitcoin historian, exactly 2 years ago, Nayib Bukele said they would buy one Bitcoin every single day. Today, they own over $500 million worth of Bitcoin, and they are up 500%. And this is the guy behind it, Nayib Bukele, who had to deal with an awful lot of pressure, by the way, from the IMF. And he said, go pound sand. Let me do my thing. He's been proven very correct. So, courageous move. He went up against the biggest, strongest forces on the planet, and he won by saying no. Don't always say yes, ladies and gentlemen. Also, Bitcoin options are incoming. This also popped up yesterday that, the SEC and the CFTC, etc., they're bowing down to crypto and digital assets. And now we will have Bitcoin options incoming, imminent, maybe before the end of the year. And that means more liquidity, more money, and people with big money runners will feel much more comfortable with the asset when they can use these Bitcoin options too. So nothing but goodness. And even more goodness. Shout out to the legend Satoshi Nakamoto. By the way, this is a beautiful sculpture in Lugano, Switzerland. And if you look through it at a certain angle, you can see directly through it. It is absolutely a beautiful work of art. But Satoshi Nakamoto is now worth over $100 billion. And he's number 19 on the global rich person list. And I hear you ask, who else is on that list? Let's have a look. It's an interesting little finding here, too, that I came across this morning. But in the US, Elon Musk, number 1, 303 billion. Larry Ellison, number 2, 226 billion. Jeff Bezos, 222 billion. Zuckerberg, about 200 million. The Arnault family. Warren Buffett, 148. Larry Page, etc. Sergey Brin, they're both Googlers. One thing I do want to share here that's very interesting is Steve Ballmer is now number 10. And Bill Gates is number 14. Steve Ballmer has 25 billion, approximately 20 billion more than Bill Gates. But Bill Gates had more Microsoft stock. Ballmer didn't sell. Bill Gates did to reinvest in other things like controlling the food supply and vaccines and all that stuff. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that path. I saw you trying to goat me into it. But the point is, don't sell your winning assets. If Bill Gates had held all his Microsoft stock, I reckon he'd be $50 billion richer, and he'd be probably number 6 on the list, approximately. I didn't spend much time calculating it. Anyhow, hold on to your winners. Speaking of winners, this is the Bitcoin chart, basically since 2020. Henrik in Denmark. Horengore. This is just, I was just playing with charts this morning, as I do every day. Ignore the halving line and stuff. That's just legacy drawings I put on my charts that I never delete. But if you look at the rampage we've been on since 2020, I mean, Bitcoin is under $4,000 in March 2020. And look where it is now. It is $91,167 to the penny, to the dollar. And that's incredible. Where can you go from, say, 3,000 or 4,000 to 90,000 just since 2020? It's stunning. It also, in full disclosure, it makes me a little bit queasy just looking at that big spike up there. But it is also something to behold. So well done, you legends, for holding some of this good stuff. Also, we are entering, believe it or not, this is even more nuts. This is from the Bitcoin Data newsletter. And we are entering the parabolic zone on November 28th per this chart. I'll repeat. We are going into the parabolic zone on November 28th. When you look at this, you think we're already in it, but we have yet to enter. It is also very scary when you think about it. There's a couple of things I want to point out about this chart. It is the sine wave stuff we shared a few weeks ago, and halving cycles. But I want you to cast your eyes on the two little blue and red dots. Obviously, the colors are the different halving cycles. We have gone through the blue zone, which is good, but the red zone is the parabolic zone, and that begins on the 28th of November per history. And as usual, we expect two cycle tops. Blue first and red second. Red is normally higher than the first blue, but then we also have to think, what happens after that? Or we need to think, do we even get there? Or, thank you, Thunderbear. Or, where do we go from here? Or do we get just one cycle top? These are things we all need to consider. Or do we not have a bear market? Again, per Rajat, just straight up. Again, with $42 billion from MicroStrategy, the potential of US government stacking some Bitcoin, there's rumor Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they're all stacking now, or some of them are. We just don't know who or how much. And then we have Bhutan, over $1.1 billion in Bitcoin. I mean, it's kicking off. So we'll see what we get and if this time is different or if history will repeat. So far, history has been pretty dead on too. Also, this is from James Van Straten. This is important. I've been talking a lot about this week, of how little Bitcoin has been sold by long-term holders, given the price action. Again, we've gone to the moon, and nobody is selling it. Per James, only 300,000 Bitcoin have been sold so far by so-called long-term holders. And that's about a third of what we saw in March 2024, the first time we spiked to the all-time high. Now, sell pressure is an awful lot smaller, and as the price goes higher, we don't know what to expect. But this is a little bit different. The long-term holders are not selling. Very interesting. Another view of that too, of how the long-term holders from Blockware, long-term holders still holding compared to previous cycles. If you look back to, that would be circa, let me get these two, the two peaks before, they're April 2021 and November 2021. That's the first peak, second peak. Just per these dots here, you can see the blue dot and the red dot. That's exactly what this corresponds with. But look at the green. That is the long-term holders. They dumped a truckload of Bitcoin on the first peak. On the second peak, they didn't dump any. Weird. Now, they're not dumping at all. And we've had two peaks. So again, people know how bad the situation is. And they're holding on. All right. Let's switch gears. Enough Bitcoin stuff. But that drives the whole market. AltSeason is creeping up a little bit, up to 35. Last week, I think we were at 32. And some more metrics around the Bitcoin indicators across the board from SwissBlock. This is slightly out, but there's a reason why it's here. But it's just everywhere I look, I see a lot of reasons for optimism. The world is catching on to what this thing is. And indicators show more or less where we started last week, last time I did this. Bitcoin season still has a lot of very bullish momentum, very strong fundamentals, and everything seems set for Bitcoin to continue breaking new all-time highs and reaching new peaks. And of course, it's not a linear path. It'll be very choppy. There'll be ups and downs. But again, all across the board here, very low risk, very good fundamentals, and very bullish. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But again, things are good and things are still early. We also have another surprise. This is from Kobesi. There is now a record 7 trillion, I keep saying the word trillion dollars in American money market accounts. And that is nuts. And this is despite the fact that the Feds have cut rates by 75 basis points over the last couple of weeks. Assets in money market funds have doubled in just 4.5 years. And you can see this is from Crane, I think. It tracks the 100 largest money market funds. And these funds are only paying about 4.5% on average, which you get taxed on in short-term capital gains. But the money market funds are surging like rate cuts are being canceled. But why is this important? Because once the rate cuts do continue to come in and people aren't making their 4% on their money, like a 3.5% or something, they're going to find other risk assets. So the fact that this big bag of cash is still sitting there and it's not already deployed into things like Bitcoin and Tesla is actually very impressive. Also, let's look at the dashboard from the Crypto Compendium. Bitcoin, I highlighted there, kind of middle of the road, up 19.3% for the week. Call it 20%. Not bad. But what's really crazy is the poop coins are doing really well this week. I mean, Pepe topping the charts. XRP had a monstrous week around some rumors of stuff and the fact that Gary Gensler could be going. Bonk is up, Doge, Cardano, Floki. I mean, and then SUI. SUI's there too. And then a lot of other names. It's just very bizarre. It's like altcoin season is happening, but for memes and other weird coins. I don't know. It's just the nature of how fickle this industry is. Let's look at the categories, the narratives for the week as well. Bitcoin up 20%. Ethereum up a whopping 1.6%. And store of value as a category up 78.5%, much tied to, of course, Bitcoin. And meme coins second, up 55.9% for the week. That is just outrageous how much these things have gone up without fundamentals. Anyway, sometimes there are mysteries in markets you just can't figure out. Also, Solana is now up 2,100% off the bottom. Shout out to Legends that nailed that bottom. It's incredible. Yeah, it's not moving as fast lately as some of the meme coins, but it's still moving quick. And that's the big picture, is to zoom out and know where you've come from and where you are. And that's the key. Also, Solana, Jupiter on Solana smashes all other aggregators. These are things like OKX, 1inch, etc. You can see here over the last 24 hours, Jupiter is doing 64%, 2/3 of all DEX volume, nearly $4 billion. Again, it's like there's only one destination to go. Imagine there are thousands of stores and everybody chooses to go to one to trade. That's basically what it is. All the other stores are empty. So remember my supermarket or shopping mall analogy? Well, that's exactly what's happening here. The rest are just dying. And another big spike too this week. SUI spikes to nearly $4. Shout out to the SUI holders and Marty Party. This one has been quite amazing. And that's crypto so far. But there's more. What else is happening this week? Well, massive. Shout out to Sanjay as well, who got this to me late last night. This is from FinViz. And if you look here, it's a very hard to read list, so I'll just pop out the top names that are selling the most. Jeff Bezos, huge selling pressure. Karp from Palantir, huge selling. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase, huge selling. What's going on? Why are these insiders dumping their shares? Let's have a look at the charts. Amazon is at a top on the ATR model. And Jeff Bezos is very good at nailing tops. He did it before, late 2021? Last time he sold a lot, and he's doing it again now. He knows exactly where the relative value of Amazon is and when he needs to offload. So, as Jeff Lutz would say about Jeff Bezos, if Elon Musk was dumping stock like this, it would be a huge story all over the press. But because Jeff Bezos does it, nobody cares. That's just how it is. And Palantir, another one too. It's more like a blow-off top. This one has been insane. Shot up to $65, and that's when Karp sold a truckload. Way out of the zone. We'll see if this thing mean reverts. I think Karp thinks it does. It will. And we'll see if it comes back down to about $30 or so. Andy, good to see you there in Australia. And final little piece, kind of recap for the week, but more of a message. And I always preach, beware of pensions and being forced into buy certain types of mutual funds and being locked in. It's not a good thing, but this really tells the case very well. As I say, what goes in doesn't come out. Worst deal ever. This is U.S. Social Security contributions. And by the way, you can look at any of your Social Security contributions or whatever you call it, all over the world, it'll be pretty much the same thing, okay? You get stuffed. Let me walk you through this, what exactly it means. What goes in? So here, for your typical person, Social Security, you will pay in, by the time you're 67, about $600,000. If you had just gotten a shitty 5% return on your $600,000, that would grow to $1.9 million over the time you've been putting money in there. However, the government, well, their payout is only going to be like a monthly benefit after you're 67 for as long as you live. And if you don't live very long, you're definitely getting gypped. And the annual benefit is only $37,000 versus if you are managing your own money and only getting 5% return, you'd be getting more than 3 times that. If you are getting, as I say, my hurdle rate is 14%, it goes up to infinity because of the miracle of compounding. So again, the big point I'm trying to make here is don't bank on this to save you, because all the money you put in, you're only going to get pennies back, if anything at all. And that's not going to be enough with the ravages of inflation and everything out there. So just be prepared. What is it? Being forewarned is prepared, or whatever that expression is. Anyhow, that's the show. I'll be back with live Q&A tomorrow, noon Pacific. Thank you all for coming. Thanks once again to the mods in chat and over 5,000 people watching live. Appreciate you all. Take care. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Oop, I pressed the wrong button.